Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alison and this is Dotty Lifestyle. So today I'm bringing you a vlog that I've been talking about doing for a little while, and that is my experience over the last 6 months following low FODMAP for IBS. So I'm literally going to take you through my experience of it, what brought me to starting it, my experience of doing the elimination period, how I reintroduce things, and where I'm at now. So if that's something that you're interested in, or maybe know somebody who might be, then please stay with me. So I'm in my mid-50s. Although I'm not bringing this to you as a health professional, I was a registered nurse in the UK for 22 years. And I sort of self-diagnosed myself with IBS. Most people who have IBS suffer from bloating, and we're going to talk about poo, guys. Sorry, I can't kind of frame it up any nicer. People either tend to suffer from constipation or diarrhoea. Mine's the diarrhoea version. And I guess I first realised that I had some things that triggered it, something off when I was in probably my mid-20s, I'm guessing. I can't really remember, but certainly as the years have progressed it's got worse and worse. I also had some upper GI stuff going on, so I knew that I'd had a hiatus hernia for about, I'm going to say, around 20 years, but I didn't have that formally diagnosed with the camera down until early 2023, when I had some ulcers in my esophagus, severe esophagitis, hiatus hernia and stomach ulcers. So the whole of my upper and lower GI tract was not in a good place. So my GP obviously was supporting me to kind of try to get that under control, because I basically reached a point where I couldn't lie down in bed without acid reflux, which is just a horrible place. But I'm delighted to say all of it is all under control now. So my GP had spoken to me before about FODMAP. I think it's the language that's used, because I really get along well with my GP. She's very on my wavelength, and she referred to it as the FODMAP diet, and diet kind of connected with, like, obviously calorie controlled and weight loss, and I do have other things that I follow around that. So I sort of pushed it back for a little while, and then when I was seeing her about my upper GI stuff, I did say, like, my IBS symptoms are just getting worse and worse. And so she said, well, first of all, we've got to formally diagnose you as having IBS, so you do some stool samples and things. I basically kept a diary. I'd reached a point where the minute I woke up on a morning, I had to run to the bathroom. But equally, you know, I've been out, say I went to an Italian restaurant and I ate carbonara, like, we couldn't stay for coffee or dessert or anything like that. We would have to come straight home. I've rang my husband before and said, can you make sure the front door's unlocked? I need to run straight in the house as soon as I get home. And it's just not a pleasant way to live, really. And for me, the bloating, I mean, like, I could literally go from my normal to looking like I was 9 months pregnant within, I don't know, less than 20 minutes of eating something. Very uncomfortable. So if you're still with me, I guess that you're having some of that, or you've maybe had some of that, or you know somebody who does. What I can say is I'm pleased I didn't continue to push back with FODMAP, because it's just changed my life. So in June of 2023, I think about the middle of June, I went to see my GP and she said, will you give this a go? She talked to me about family members that she'd got using it and their experiences, and I think I just reached a point where I was like, okay. So basically, I'll drop a picture in the screen. This is from the Gastroenterology Consultants of San Antonio, but I think this seems to be the general picture that most people follow. I wasn't supported by a dietitian or anything. I literally just linked up with my GP and read around it. There is many probably Facebook groups about it, and there is a university in the USA called, I think it's called Monash or Montash, who do a lot of research into this and have a app as well. Now, I didn't use that. There is a fee, it's quite reasonable, about £8 a year or something, and I did use the Facebook group for a little while, but I kind of need things to be quite simple, I'm going to be honest. So when I got into the reintroduction phase, I mean, they do some amazing work, and for some people, they'll really need it in this level. But if it was a case of you can reintroduce, I don't know, let's just pick something off the list, like cabbage. But you can eat, this is just an example, I'm just quoting random numbers. You can eat 28 grams of it, but you can't have 36 grams of it. That would then move into medium or high FODMAP. My brain just went, nah. So basically, you might think I've winged it a bit, and I guess I kind of have, because as you can see by the picture that I'll drop in, and I'll probably keep leaving that on the screen or bringing it in, foods are separated into two groups. Foods to avoid in red, foods to enjoy in green. One of the other things that I did at the same time was I got my hair tested. So I'm in the UK, I'm sure you can do this all over the world. I sent it off to a company. There were different levels of testing you can do. I've been not allergic, but strongly intolerant to bananas my whole life. I developed a seafood intolerance, like shellfish intolerance. But what that brought back were a couple of things that were very unexpected for me. That I was highly sensitive to mushrooms, which I eat, or did eat, every day, and chickpeas, which I absolutely love, and I chuck into a lot of cooking. I can eat vegetarian or vegan anyway. I was vegetarian for a while and vegan for a while, and I love chickpeas. So I was kind of like, no, really? And there were other things that I was quite highly sensitive to, like kidney beans, which I was like, well, I'd put them in chili con carne, but I can live without that. Might need to be a bit careful, a couple of things like that. But it was interesting. And I spoke to my GP and said, I've also got these findings. Are you interested? And she said, yes, absolutely. So she said, the things that you've mentioned are actually high in FODMAP. So at some point on your experience, you'd have probably identified that anyway. But it's interesting that you've identified it early. So basically, I dived into the 2-week period that she told me to do. She halved my gastro and upper GI medication for my hiatus hernia, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to manage. But she was dead honest with me, and she said, like, I'm really struggling because it's not a hiatus hernia they can operate on. She said, I'm really struggling with where we can go next with it. Everything else is healed up yet. They took me from a very high level of omeprazole, 80 milligrams a day, back down to 20, and I just couldn't cope on it. So I basically dived into the green list for 2 weeks. Was it easy? No. I mean, not as difficult as a very restrictive, calorie controlled diet, if you like. The thing that I found the most restrictive was that 2 of the things that you've got to remove for the 2 weeks are onions and garlic, and I love garlic. It goes into everything that I ate. And so when I came to the reintroduction phase, yeah, you guessed it, that was one of the things I introduced straight away, but I'll come to that later. In that 2 weeks, I had to keep referring to the sheet. I had it saved in my phone. Instead of having the red and the green, I just kept a picture of the green, and I kept referring to that. I did an online shop, made sure that the things that I was using from this. So the foods are basically set into different areas, and the FODMAP bit stands for different things. So I will break down what they are and put them on the screen. I'm not going to attempt to say them because my pronunciation's probably not the greatest. The traffic light system is basically broken down into fruits that you can eat, vegetables you can eat, starches you can eat, and dairy that you can eat, and then miscellaneous. So I am going to keep looking up and down while I'm talking about it. So I'm going to skip straight to the starch, which are like the glutens, the cereals, the oats, and the dairy. Because I had an inkling that I had an intolerance to gluten, I have been tested for celiac several times, and that's come back as negative. So I didn't think I had celiac disease, but I knew that certain things with gluten in could trigger me off, and I also knew that certain things with dairy in could trigger me off. I'd already kind of got quite used to vegan cheese, but I absolutely love cheese, and I'd already switched to oat milk rather than cow's milk, but mostly I drink black tea or black coffee. So yeah, there was a bit of kind of movement that I'd already done. So with regards to the section on starch, so this is what I did for 2 weeks. It's gluten-free bread or cereal products, 100% spelt bread. Well, I didn't have that because I've had a serious reaction to that in the past, so I've got to stay clear of spelt. That's just a personal thing. Rice, oats, polenta, and other things like arrowroot, millet, quinoa, tapioca, and psyllium and sorghum. I don't know what they even are, those two. So I basically just switched to gluten-free bread and gluten-free oats, although it said normal oats. I do things like overnight oats or baked oats sometimes for breakfast. And then with dairy, it's milk, so it's lactose-free milk, oat milk, rice milk, soya milk, but check it for any sort of additives that might be in the lists of things. With cheese, it does say you can have hard cheeses, and then brie and camembert, but I do know that brie and camembert can be things that can trigger me off, so again, it's personal. So I just switched totally to vegan cheese and oat milk or soya milk, and with yogurt, lactose free, so I've switched to that anyway. Ice cream substitutes, so you would be looking for things like sorbet, and butter substitutes, so you're looking for things like olive oil. I don't tend to use butter, so that's not really been an issue anyway. And then in terms of fruit and vegetables, a weird vegetarian, my brother used to call me, so I'm not a huge... I like the vegetables that I eat, what can I say, and I like the fruit that I like. I mostly like berries, so things for me like strawberries. I'm just looking down the list. It's a while since I did this bit, so I'm just checking that out. So I did have, I don't think they're on the list, but I did have raspberries. Frozen raspberries are my go-to fruit with yogurt and maybe like overnight oats or something like that. Potatoes you can have. So when you get into it, and if you're exploring this, just go onto Google and put in FODMAP, an image, and it'll bring you up this image. So it was just interesting, the learning. So you can eat a red bell pepper, so that's like this shape of pepper in the UK, but yellow and green are on the foods to avoid. So it was like, I was like, why is that? That's really sort of strange. But sweet potatoes, tomatoes, turnip, there are loads of things on that. There are things I don't eat. I'm not going to read the whole list, but I basically kind of framed up meals. I made it very simple, so I'd have like roast chicken with some form of potatoes or rice and salad or vegetables. I just kept it really, really simple. I absolutely love roasted veg, so I started to tray bake roasted veg, so sweet potato, squash, potato, and then I would put chicken in with that. I did miss the onion, I'm not going to lie, but I did kind of season it with herbs and seasonings and flavour things up. And then what I was doing was taking that for work with vegan cheese in and kind of just warming it up in the microwave at work for lunch. And I still do that now. Not every day, but I really enjoy that for lunch. With fruit, sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. So strawberries, raspberries are fine, orange, there's loads on them, bananas are fine, as I said earlier. With melon, it's honeydew melon, so you've got to be really careful. And I was talking to somebody else who follows this that at a training day, and she said if I literally eat watermelon, it just sends my whole system absolutely gaga, and it's fascinating. And in the miscellaneous, you've got sweeteners, so particularly sucrose, glucose, artificial sweeteners not ending in ol, and sugar in small quantities. I don't tend to use sugar. And honey substitutes, so small quantities of golden syrup, maple syrup, molasses and treacle. So I have done things like using gluten-free oats. I've made with an egg and some lactose-free yogurt, some sort of little Scotch pancakes or waffles, and I have sweetened those a little bit with sweeteners from the list. And I've done that with fruit, but I've also done it with bacon and golden and maple syrup as well. Am I making you hungry? So that's a little bit of the breakdown. If you want to know a bit more detail, you can check it out. So yeah, I had an appointment to go back and see my GP at the end of the 2 weeks. I was nervous about my medication. I was nervous about what the flavour of food would be like, particularly for me taking out garlic and onions, but I managed. In the meantime, I came across about 7 people that I knew that were following this anyway, so they were giving me tips and advice, and people were saying things like, if it turns out you can't reintroduce onions, you can have the green parts of leek, not the white, and the same with spring onions, you can have the green, not the white. So I was like, oh okay, but I wanted to kind of give it that 2 weeks. So basically I went back to my GP after 2 weeks and she said, what do you think? And I went, I could not believe how quickly my symptoms improved. Not just my IBS symptoms, but my upper GI symptoms. I followed what she said and I halved my omeprazole medication. And obviously it wasn't really for upper GI, but yeah, it was just fascinating. I wasn't particularly trying to lose weight, but I'd lost 7 pounds in that 2 weeks. And I said to her, what I can't get used to is, like, my face has gone down like as if I'd lost about 2 to 3 stone. My wrists had really gone down, my fingers, other parts of my body that I could feel that I maybe weren't as swollen and things. And she said you were basically reacting to so much stuff that you just couldn't work it out. And when you're having a reaction, you're not just having it like in your stomach, because you're used to kind of like, I'm either running to the loo or I'm bloated. So she said basically you're having like a reaction all over your body. So you know, a lot of that weight loss was probably a fluid loss. And I know you might say, well, if you follow a calorie controlled diet, that would happen in the first week. But it's been more than that. And if I have had some gluten, particularly at some point, I can feel that coming back, that fluid. So I can really notice that difference. So I basically, after the 2 weeks, she said, just start to explore the foods on the red list. Introduce them as you want to, try them out and see how you get on. Now, on the Facebook group I was on, it was very kind of, if somebody kind of said, can I try this and that? They were like, have you explored the whole of that food group? You need to do it one at a time. You need to do this, you need to do that. I came off it in the end because I don't respond well in that sort of a situation. There are things on that list that I'm never going to eat, that I don't like and I don't eat. Brussels sprouts, everybody who knows me knows I hate Brussels sprouts. Okra, I don't eat. Asparagus, I love. Beetroot, I love. Broccoli, I love. Cabbage, dark, yes. Aubergine, love. So, and in the fruit, like apples, I've not got anything against apples, don't particularly eat loads of fruit. Avocados are on there, nectarines, peach, pear, plum, prune, as I say, watermelon, different peppers, different sweeteners. What I did miss was the like lentils and legumes, because they're in the red list, but I'd already identified that they were something that was a problem for me, which I was really shocked at, because I used red lentils, yellow lentils, all different beans and pulses and chickpeas a lot. And obviously the opposite of things that I've mentioned, so like milk that's from cow's milk, so milk with lactose. Things that have excessive fructose, apple, mango, I love mango, pear, canned fruit in its natural juice, watermelon, some sweeteners, honey, corn syrup. I'm not a honey lover. I know a lot of people really like it, so that wasn't a miss to me. Avoid large servings of fruit, dried fruit and fruit juice. So I kind of, well, first of all, I started with garlic, because I thought I can miss the onion, but I want the garlic back in for the flavour, and I was okay. And then after about 3 days of being okay with that, in every meal, like, well, not breakfast, but in lunch and dinner, then I brought in onion a little bit at a time. So I was using those 2 things, and I was like, yep, I seem to be okay with this as well, which was good. And then I just gradually started to reintroduce other things. So I have been okay with some of them. I can eat avocado if I want to. I can eat dark cabbage. And as I said earlier, the dark part of leeks I know is fine, so I've tended to stick to that. Beetroot I have now and again. Broccoli I'm okay with. I was looking for cauliflower. I don't think that's on there, but broccoli I'm definitely okay with, and I love long stem broccoli anyway. But cauliflower, not so much. I think that is one of the things that does sort of seem to affect me. I don't eat canned fruit, so that wasn't an issue. And the fruit that I ate was on the green list anyway. I've not reintroduced cow's milk at all. We've just had Christmas, so I did get some like vegan melty cheese, not melty cheese, you know, that you can bake in the oven and dip your bread in, but I use gluten-free bread. But just over that whole sort of Christmas period, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, there are places that I've gone, or occasions where I've definitely had things that had gluten in, and I've probably had more normal cheese, and I could feel that in my system, and I could kind of feel that, you know, go on the loo. Not as bad though. So I can definitely tolerate things, but not twice a day or every day. So it's made me just very aware of that. I've been on holiday, I've been to Tenerife, managed that absolutely fine. I did speak to the restaurant before I went, and they said we've got a gluten-free selection, but actually we tend to go all-inclusive, so I tend to eat kind of grilled chicken or fish, rice and salad while I'm away anyway, so that was fine. Breakfast, I quite like a bit of like something with eggs, like an omelette or something, so that was fine. So managed on holiday absolutely fine. It did have some a la carte restaurants, and I just checked when we booked those. So like the Italian one, obviously they did pizzas and different things, but they said no, we do gluten-free pasta anyway. So yeah, managed it absolutely fine, and it really has changed my life. So I have gone on to lose in total about 2.5 stone in that 6 months by following the healthy eating plan that I follow and I'm quite involved in anyway. But I think because I've made this quite normal in my lifestyle, it's just become a way of life for me generally now. My shape's changed because of it quite a lot, so I feel like I make my own clothes, but I'm in much smaller sizes than I would have been with the weight that I've lost, and I think that's down to I can only think to the bloating and the fluid and stuff like that. I've always avoided things that had a fitted waist, because what's the point if, you know, literally minutes after I eat something I'm so distended in it's cutting into me. But I'm starting to explore more fitted clothing again, and so I hope if this is, you're still here and it's around yourself or somebody that you know, I just hope that if I can kind of tell my story and it gives somebody else a bit of hope to try it, then, you know, I know it doesn't work for everybody, but it's got a very, very high success rate. And of course, the things that everybody can or can't tolerate will be very different as well. But it really, really worked and is working for me and will be a way of life forever. In terms of my medication, I had a telephone consult with my upper GI gastroenterologist. And she said FODMAP doesn't really work for upper GI symptoms. However, in your case, she said, I think when we took you down to 20 milligrams a day, your system just works so fast that by the time you went to bed on the night, you didn't have any of that medication in your system. So she's basically sort of said to me and my GP that I can just titrate my medication for life. She doesn't need to see me again unless I have some new upper GI symptoms. So she said, you know, I kind of do moderate my alcohol. I've not I would describe myself as not a very big drinker now, but occasionally, like on holiday or special occasions, I might have a little bit more, so I might take an extra tablet before I go out on those odd occasions. And so I take 20 milligrams of omeprazole on a morning, and I've got to say I'm absolutely fine. I sleep on 2 pillows instead of 3 now. I've not had any gastric reflux for a long time. I mean, just that absolute burning. There's been times that I thought I was having a heart attack, you know, the pain, the burning. And so, yeah, I'm in like a totally different place. So I hope that gives you some hope. I'm not here for an argument, so if you're kind of coming in and going, the way I've reintroduced things isn't correct, as I've said all the way through, this is how I've done it. It may not be the right way that you were told to do it, but this is what I've done. This is my version of what I've done. So if there are those sort of things in the comments, I probably will just remove them, because I'm not here for that. I've already explained about different channels and options you can use if you do need to follow it to that letter, because some people obviously do, and that's important, and I've already mentioned them earlier. But if you're interested in trying it, then just give it a try. What have you got to lose? So I hope that's been really useful. Thank you for giving me some time today. This is a like a beauty, lifestyle, sort of travel, health channel. I may come back and revisit this at some other time. If you're interested in giving me a like and a subscribe, that would be great. But you may have just found this as a one-off, and that's absolutely fine. You're probably not here because you're interested in sewing, but my other channel is always in the description box, and that's Sew Like Dotty. And on Instagram, if you're interested in following me, it's _Dotty Lifestyle. And thank you for stopping by and listening to what I had to say today. So bye guys.